I'm just going to say, wow. Um, that was really awesome. I'm grinning from ear to ear. We really got those devil's horns coming up, didn't we, Graham?
It did. So, wow, a partial eclipse sunrise in Ontario. And I mean, it literally did look like the devil rising up over the horizon there. That was quite something.
And just gorgeous images coming from Ontario there, from Sudbury and North Bay. So yes, you guys did it. You did it. I'm super excited. It just and I'm sure they're cheering in Ontario right now, managing to beat both the clouds and technical issues and everything, and getting us these amazing images of the partial eclipse.
Absolutely. And the eclipse is starting to, the eclipse of course is actually sort of starting to go towards its end there, because the sun has only just come up, but the sun was rising at around about maximum eclipse at those locations. So as we're looking at it now, we can actually slowly see the moon is now actually moving off the sun's disk. We have passed the maximum partial eclipse in North Bay and in Sudbury. So yeah, even as we watch these pictures, we can see the crescent of the sun getting bigger and bigger as the moon starts to move off the face of the sun.
But certainly an interesting view to look at, isn't it, Graham?
It is, yes. So the partial eclipse is now starting to wind down in northeastern North America. But as far as the annular eclipse goes, because there is this very narrow path of annularity that is running from Canada across Greenland and into Siberia, and from locations on this very narrow path, people will be able to see the moon be not just forming these devil's horns, but actually becoming perfectly silhouetted and turning the sun into a ring or an annulus shape. Literally, only a few thousand people get to see this ring of fire today, because there's just so few places scattered across the Arctic that are on the path of annularity. And of course, it's very difficult to travel there at the moment because of the COVID travel restrictions. We have been very fortunate, Anna, to actually collaborate with Tony Rose, who is a long-time Arctic resident, and he's based in Iqaluit, which is one of these very lucky places that gets to see annularity today. Now, we don't have telescope images, plus we're afraid to say that the weather is not great in Iqaluit, and in fact, wow, yeah, okay, here is the picture from Iqaluit. We are about 10 minutes away from annularity. So, yeah, we have about, 75% of the sun somewhere behind those clouds. 75% is eclipsed by the moon. And in about 10 minutes, the moon will be going across the very center of the sun. It will not quite be big enough to block the sun completely, so it will leave this little ring of fire around the edge. But we're saying all this, it's all actually fairly academic at the moment, Anna, because it's all taking place behind that pretty thick looking layer of clouds in Iqaluit.
And will they notice any kind of difference? I know during a total solar eclipse when we were in Argentina, it went really dark and it was quite dramatic. But there's quite a bit of the sun left in full view, isn't it, Graham?
That's right. So, I mean, even totality during a total solar eclipse, it doesn't go completely dark. In an annular eclipse, you can still have, 10% of the sun's disk is still uncovered around the edge of the moon. And that's enough light to make things very bright. Generally, the sky starts to darken during an eclipse around about the the 60–70% partial eclipse mark, that's when you can notice the sky starts to darken. But the really noticeable drop in light levels on the ground, that doesn't really happen until you pass 80% partial. So in Iqaluit, may notice a slight darkening around annularity. But I mean, of course, with all these clouds, it's pretty dark anyway there. So yes, a slight darkening perhaps in Iqaluit around annularity, which is about 8 minutes away.
And what is an annular solar eclipse? At the moment, we're looking at a partial eclipse, and we really want to see annularity in Iqaluit, but I think we're going to be unlucky there. But what actually happens during an annular solar eclipse, and this annular solar eclipse?
Yeah, so as we look, we can see very clearly the moon's disk on these images from Sudbury, and you can. Well, it's difficult to tell, but the moon's disk, the black disk here, is just a little bit smaller than the sun's disk. There is this very amazing coincidence, Anna, that the moon is about 400 times smaller than the sun, but it's also about 400 times further away. 400 times closer than the sun. And that means that when we see the moon and the sun in the sky, they do look almost exactly the same size. The thing is that we say the moon is about 400 times closer. It changes a bit. Sometimes the moon is a bit closer to Earth. Sometimes the moon is a bit further away from Earth. Today, the moon is a bit further away, so it's looking a bit smaller than at other times, and it's not quite able to cover up all of the sun's disk.
And this eclipse itself is also quite special, isn't it? Because we've talked a little bit about the path of annularity. It's a very narrow area, just skimming the top of the globe. So we actually do have a really cool graphic where we can show a little bit of what it actually looks like, the shadow from the moon at the moment, and where you have to be to actually see annularity.
Right. So this graphic in the top right-hand corner, this is our very rough guide to what is happening today. So this is looking at the Earth and the moon in space. The sun is somewhere way off to the left, and none of this is to scale. But we've got the Earth and the moon, and we're looking down on them. So we're looking down on the North Pole of the Earth, and we're looking down on the North Pole of the moon. We can see that the North Pole of the Earth in this diagram is slightly tilted towards the sun on the left. That's because we're coming up to the June solstice. So the North Pole is tilted towards the sun at the moment. And we can also see that there are two different shadows striking the Earth. We can see those lines coming off the moon and striking the Earth. Now, these lines, these are not rays of light. These are shadows. It's kind of helpful to think about them as lines of sight. So we have that big outer, fainter shadow striking the Arctic region. That's the moon's light penumbral shadow. And if you're standing anywhere there, like in Sudbury, for example, your line of sight to the sun is partially blocked by the moon. So you're seeing this partial eclipse. If you are in that very small inner shadow, we can see there's that very small inner cone sort of hitting the North Pole. Now that is the moon's antumbra. And your line of sight to the sun then, the moon is exactly lined up in the center of the sun, just leaving this ring shape around it. The one other shadow we can see on this is that dark shadow immediately to the right of the moon. That's the very darkest part of the moon's shadow. That's the umbra. If you're standing in the umbra, the moon is completely blocking all of the light from the sun, and you get a total solar eclipse. But what this diagram is showing is that the moon's not quite close enough for that dark umbral shadow to strike the Earth. So across the Arctic region, it is that very small ant-umbral shadow that is striking the globe.
And it's striking the globe on the top. And that's because we had a very special eclipse just 2 weeks ago. And for our very loyal viewers, they might have been watching us for 2 weeks ago when we were streaming a total lunar eclipse. And because are we in the middle or the end of an eclipse season right now, Graham?
Well, we're coming up towards the end of an eclipse season. So, eclipses always come in pairs. You have a lunar eclipse at full moon, and then you have a solar eclipse at new moon, when the moon passes between the Earth and the sun. Now, normally, if you have a perfect alignment for one of these eclipses, then either 2 weeks before or after, for the other eclipse, the alignment is normally a little bit imperfect. So you tend to have a perfect annular solar eclipse or a perfect total solar eclipse. You tend to have that accompanied by a partial or penumbral lunar eclipse. The interesting thing about this eclipse season that we're in now is that we have had 2 perfect eclipses. We had a total lunar eclipse 2 weeks ago, and we have a perfect annular eclipse today. So we have this perfect alignment twice in 2 weeks. But in order for that alignment to work twice in a fortnight, it's only just good enough. So the lunar eclipse we had 2 weeks ago, the alignment had only just started to become perfect. So we had a very, very short total lunar eclipse. Totality was just 14 minutes 2 weeks ago, which is very quick for a lunar eclipse. Today, we have this perfect alignment, but only just. As we look at the Earth and the moon on our screen, it looks like they are aligned perfectly, but in fact, not quite perfect. The moon is not quite level with the Earth. The moon's shadow is not striking the equator. You have to imagine that the moon is just slightly this side of your screen. It's just slightly above the screen. So its shadow is not striking the center of the Earth and the equator. It is just clipping the very top of the Earth across the Arctic region. So that's why this annular eclipse is being seen by so few people. It's because 2 weeks ago, we had a perfect total lunar eclipse, and to have that perfect alignment again, only just possible 2 weeks later. So the ant-umbral shadow there is only just catching the very top of the northern hemisphere.
And that makes us even luckier to have all these wonderful partners helping us out all across the globe. It's very exciting to have all these people helping us bring you these beautiful images. And we've got still a lovely image going here from Sudbury in Canada, with the clouds kind of slowly passing across this crescent sun that you could almost confuse it with the moon at the moment. So it's super fascinating to have a look at. And please don't go away. You can go and check out our blog.
Anna, we should just say that 10:06. That it is now annularity in Iqaluit. We know that they've got the clouds there. I don't know if we're able to just have another quick look at Iqaluit. Just because annularity is happening there now. Unfortunately, no one's going to be able to see it behind those thick clouds. But
no, I'm hearing we can't get this eclipse coming up the annularity coming up. So
right.
we'll just have to know that it's happening.
Right, absolutely, yes.
But if you want to read a little bit more about Iqaluit, you can go into our live news stream. It's timeanddate.live, and you can go in there and you can read more about what an annular solar eclipse is. You can read more about eclipse seasons, and you can read more about our streaming partners. And we will see you very soon, so don't go away. And there's a beautiful image there coming in from Oslo in Norway, so we still have a lot to come. See you soon. And we're back. We're looking at the moon quite quickly moving away from the sun there in Sudbury, Canada. The moon's just taking a little bite out of the sun at this point, and the partial eclipse is winding down in North America, but not completely grey.
No, so at our location right here in Sudbury, we can see that this event is almost at an end. This eclipse in Sudbury will be finishing at 10:43 UTC. So that's in about 15 minutes. The moon will have completely left the face of the sun. However, in other parts of North America, the event is still building towards its climax. We have some pictures from the very north of Canada, north of the Arctic Circle, from Inuvik in the Northwestern Territories of Canada. And we're looking at a beautiful wide-angle image there. This is in the land of the midnight sun. After today's big partial solar eclipse, the sun won't actually set here in Inuvik until July the 19th.
Wow.
So they will have the sun with them for a few weeks yet. Here in Inuvik, the maximum eclipse will be 77%, so about 3/4 of the sun will be covered, and that will be at 10:42 UTC. So here we are, we're about 10 minutes away from eclipse maximum. So the partial eclipse is ending in northeastern North America, right up in the far north, where we're very close to the eclipse maximum. And things are still building up in Europe. So we have our picture in the top right-hand corner there from near Oslo in Norway. And the maximum there will be coming up in around about 10 minutes to maximum eclipse in Oslo. So things are still in the first half of the eclipse in Northern Europe.
Yeah, we can mention that we had to choose Oslo. Our timeanddate.com team was rushing around trying to find a spot, and they found some friendly people to help them set up, and they're in a place called Opaker, which is an hour outside Oslo, but for all intents and purposes, for the worldwide audience, it's Oslo. But for us Norwegians, we like to be a bit more specific. So thank you to you guys there in Opaka. But there's other special things about this eclipse. We were talking a little bit about the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipse and that they come in pairs, but there's also something that was happening with the moon then. We've been talking a little bit about the moon being far from Earth, and that's why we have this annular solar eclipse. But during the lunar solar eclipse 2 weeks ago, it was fairly close, wasn't it, Graham?
Right. There is actually a very interesting balance between these two eclipses that we've had. We talked a bit before about the alignment, that to actually have a total lunar eclipse followed by an annular solar eclipse, the alignment is only just good enough for each event. So 2 weeks ago, it was a very quick, very short total lunar eclipse. Today, it's an annular eclipse where the shadow is just skimming across the Arctic region of the Earth. But yeah, the other interesting balance between these two eclipses is, as you say, Anna, the distance to the moon. So 2 weeks ago, it was a total lunar eclipse. It was also a supermoon because the moon was particularly close to the Earth 2 weeks ago. Here we are. 2 weeks later, we've gone from the full moon of the lunar eclipse to the new moon of the solar eclipse, and the distance to the moon has also changed. And for this eclipse, the moon is further away than usual. And that's why this is an annular eclipse. That's why the moon is not big enough today to completely cover the face of the sun. And I think we have a little graphic that we can. Okay, well we've got one here down in the right down in the bottom left corner. This shows how the distance of the moon changes. So at its closest, to have a supermoon, the moon has to be within 360,000 kilometers of the Earth. Anything closer than that. And we call that a supermoon. Anything more than 405,000 kilometers, then the moon is smaller in the sky. We call that a micromoon. Today, we're not quite at a micromoon. Today, the moon is just a tiny bit less than 405,000 kilometers away. So technically, it's not a micromoon by this definition, but the moon is smaller than usual, and that's why we're having an annular eclipse rather than a total solar eclipse today.
And they have names too, and we always get them mixed up. It's apogee and perigee, and apo. You taught me apo is 3 letters, so apo are 3 letters in far. So apogee means the moon is far away, and peri means near. 4 letters, perigee, near. So that's my quick brain-boggling way to remember the difference between supermoon and micromoon. So at the moment, the moon is. Thank you. So the moon at the moment is near apogee, right, Graham?
At the moment, it's near apogee, right? Because, and in fact, here we have a little diagram now in the top right-hand corner that can help us with this. When we're talking about the moon being a bit nearer sometimes and a bit farther away at other times, it's because the moon's orbit is not a perfect circle. It is slightly oval-shaped or slightly elliptical. So today, yes, the moon is far, and FAR, 3 letters, that gives us apo for apogee. The moon is at its furthest point from the Earth. 2 weeks ago, for our lunar eclipse, the moon was there in the other half of its orbit, and then it was at its closest point to the Earth, and near, as you say, Anna, 4 letters, NEAR, gives us peri, gives us perigee, to describe the moon's closest point. Yeah, that diagram in the top right-hand corner, that explains why 2 weeks ago it was a supermoon lunar eclipse, and also why today, 2 weeks later, it is an annular solar eclipse.
Yeah. And we're going to be shifting our focus now to Northern Europe. The eclipse is winding down, except for Nuvik. They still have their highlight there, but it looked quite cloudy in Nuvik. So I hope they get a little bit of break in the clouds there to see and their max. What did you say? 80% there in Nuvik?
In Nuvik, they are getting 77% partial eclipse there. Yes.
Yeah. So we're fingers crossed for them to get a little bit of a break in the clouds. But we're shifting towards Northern Europe. We're looking at images here from Opaka, outside of Oslo, Norway, and there's just a little bit of the moon left there over the sun in Sudbury, Canada, and hopefully we'll have some images from the UK, maybe another feed from Northern Norway. We're waiting on that as well, so don't go away. It's still happening. Go and check timeanddate.live. There's lots and lots of interesting posts in our live news feed there. There's images from people sharing their images on Twitter and other social media. So go and have a look, and we'll see you back here soon. Ooh, and we've got some great pictures coming in here now from the crowd in Inuvik in Canada. Uh, Looking at the time, help me out here, Graham. Where are they when it comes to annularity?
So for the maximum eclipse in Inuvik, that is really round about now 1042 was their maximum of 77%. So yeah, they're round about maximum now. It looked like there was a great crowd of people out there. It also looked like they were struggling with clouds there as well.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
This is all happening really in the very early hours of the morning for them. So it's up above the Arctic Circle. It's the land of the midnight sun. The local time there is 4:48 a.m. So everybody got up really in the middle of the night, except it wasn't really the night because of the midnight sun. But certainly in the small hours of the morning, everybody got up. And it looked like a wonderful crowd there, but I'm afraid it looks like the clouds haven't done their part in Inuvik.
Yeah, but if they've seen anything, let's hope they're not too tired to use filters, eclipse glasses, and be safe. We keep repeating and reminding people to stay safe. We do have a little version that we call do make don't, which is do be safe, use eclipse glasses, use filters, put filters on your binoculars, on your telescope. If not, you can make a pinhole projector. Graham, bring up your trusty props. We've got some props going on there. He's got a colander and what is that? Slotted spoon? Is that what we call it? Yep. Almost anything with the hole in it can be used to project the sun onto a piece of paper, something lighter colored, and you can see little crescent shapes there. It's really cool. And don't put on your sunglasses and look straight at the sun. It really can damage your retina. You can go blind. It sounds very dramatic because it is, isn't it, Graham?
Yes, it is. This is a hugely serious message. Right now in Northern Europe, this partial eclipse is going on. So there is an opportunity, if you have cloud-free skies, to see this, but only look at the sun if you have the proper eye protection. If not, projecting the sun is also it's also a really it's a very effective way to see the crescent shape, and yeah, it's a lot of fun as well.
Go under a tree, look down at the ground, and you can see the crescent shapes in the between the leaves. It's that simple, and please stay safe. Stay safe. Stay safe. We just wanted to remind you guys we're going to be back, hopefully talking to Bill and Dave in North Bay. So we're going to need some time to just get them over their excitement of Devil's Horns. I'm hoping we'll see how excited they are. Ooh, and we're finally getting some pictures from Northern Norway here, from Kautokeino in Northern Norway. So yes, it's still a lot of good things to come. So go to timeanddate.live, read about us, read about our partners, and share images, and we'll see you back here soon.